conversation. We've got an exciting match of Modern here. We saw Yawgmoth earlier today here, Hunter Ovington piloting the Golgari deck, but on the other side is Christian Valenti playing 5-color creativity. Now, this is an archetype that we have seen a decent amount of on the series, but with the inclusion of Lord of the Rings, I want to ask you, Mason, has anything really changed with this archetype?
That deck hasn't changed very much when it comes to the 5-color deck. It is sort of just, the creativity deck. It is kind of the same for the most part, although Christian here seems to be playing Halfling. Maybe we have the names backwards. I think it might be what's happening. I think this is our Yawgmoth player.
Okay.
That would make the most sense to me. Also, I know Christian personally. I know he's got some tattoos on his arm. So I think that might be Christian on our left. There we go. We swapped it over. So the big changes are the other decks have changed on our own. Nothing's really changed here. Some players have, opted for doing other cards and having little tech things. But checking out Christian, it looks like he is just running the normal stuff. Has a Persist in his deck as one of his flex slots instead of a Transmogrify. And then his sideboard is pretty stock. Looks to be literally no Lord of the Rings cards in Christian's deck here.
Okay, and I think that makes sense. Creativity doesn't really play nicely with the One Ring, which is probably the premier card. Also, like we see it literally in play, there are 2 Delighted Halflings. Can't play that in your creativity deck. But speaking of Delighted Halflings, I mean, this has replaced, Noble Hierarch as or Birds of Paradise as like the mana dorks of choice. So that's an interesting thing. But also, talk to me about like Delighted Halfling. You can see it on the screen now. It's a 1/2 Halfling Citizen for a single green that can give legends uncounterability. Talk to me about the sequence here and how this is going to unfold our matchup over the next few turns.
Yeah, so Delighted Halfling, its biggest thing is it's a 1/2 on a Rog. The 2 toughness means it doesn't die to Ren and 6, which has been the problem with all the Noble Hierarchs and the Birds of Paradise. And in these matchups was a big reason why you would see the 4-color decks win, because they would play something like Birds of Paradise here. Christian would go Fetch, Shock, Slam, Ren and 6 minus, bam, you're down a card. I'm up my Ren and 6. You're super far behind if you didn't get to use your mana because Heaven forbid you're on the draw. Huge. Halfling being that 1/2 means it literally can attack, which helps your B plan, and doesn't die to as many things as normal, and that is really important. Even if it just generates colorless mana for some of your spells, it still does that, and that is enough. As we do see Orcish Bowmaster get flashed in here, sort of showing you, hey, colorless was enough.
Okay, yeah, that's actually really interesting because I've played with the Halfling in a couple other formats, and in Legacy specifically, not being able to cast like Swords to Plowshares and Brainstorms can sometimes be a downside. But you're playing a 2-color deck. Here, your curve is a little bit higher. Here, you actually have ways to convert. So I think it's definitely showing that it is pretty interesting. Now, this is another interesting card that we want to talk about as well: Orcish Bowmasters in the context of the 5-color creativity matchup. How much of a deal breaker is this card against the 5-color creativity deck?
So the best raise the alarm of all times in the house on a Rog. And this card is actually pretty important. So it being able to flash in and shoot down a dwarf is really, really bad for Christian. By the way, in general, Christian is kind of the underdog here now. The matchup has gotten a lot better for Yawgmoth and is already pretty good. If we stick Yawgmoth, it's really hard to go for the combo using the dwarf stuff. So you have to set up some treasures, which can be a lot more challenging. So Christian here needs to get a stabilized board, and Orcish Bowmaster lets you dodge all these sorcery speed removal like Prismatic Ending and that sort of thing, while also pressuring down things like the dwarf. So it's going to be pretty big here. We're going to see an Eldritch Evolution on the Bowmaster, and that's going to give us a Yawgmoth, but he gets Spell Pierced by Christian and an attack for 1. That could have been like a game-ending play if it had resolved.
Wow. Okay, that and I get it, and I'm actually really like happy that we're going to get more of this specific game, because I feel like this is going to be a critical moment. We're going to look back at the end of the match and be like, dang, this is where the game swung. Orcish Bowmasters, like the actual ability still seems really good in a world of like Archons and in a world of like Fabled Mirror Breaker, Teferi, all this sort of things. So I'm surprised to see that we were so ready to let it go. But I guess, let me ask you the question. If that Eldritch Evolution had resolved, was the game over? Was it a GG in the chat?
It wasn't a GG, but it was really close. Getting the Yawgmoth in play is such a big game. Even if Christian had just gone to Fairy Bounce it, having the access to the Yawgmoth matters so much. And so, really Leyline Binding was the one thing that could have been really bad. We do see a Ignoble Hierarch come down, and it looks like Hunter is maybe signaling a pass the turn because he might have Chord of Calling in hand.
Ooh, okay, that's spicy. One thing that actually made me smile a little bit, like when you were talking about how like Ren and 6 is no longer as good because it cannot make that down tick leverage tempo play or whatever. It's like the tables have now turned where the Yawgmoth deck is the one that is pinging all the like the X ones now, and it's actually a lot more impactful with the Bowmasters. I think that's just hilarious to me that we'll chalk it up to irony, I guess.
Yeah, it is very funny. And Bowmaster is really good against Teferi, bouncing and just like trying to buy time. Like it just really lines up well in a lot of different spots. So
all right, well, let's see what's going on here. We're playing the Dwarven Mine. That's going to trigger proc the token. We could just tap out here for Indomitable Creativity targeting the token. What is the risk here? We already know Orcish Bowmaster is one problem. Anything else?
It's Orc or bust here. Just given the game, Hunter doesn't have any other way to interact. And it looks like, oh yeah, Hunter says resolves. And we're going to find the Archon here. And that is a big game. Especially with Hunter here sort of low on mana, not able to really, even if we do have something, it's probably going to need to be like a Grist in order to kill the Archon. And that means the Archon's already getting a huge amount of value swing. So luckily we have the army token to sacrifice to the Archon itself, but still have to figure out a way to stop this Archon before it attacks. Because once it starts attacking, our life total will be under real pressure. And like we talked about in round 1 of Sam Black's deck, the amount of pressure really adds up quickly in the Yawgmoth deck that needs a decent life total to start going sometimes.
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring up Sam Black's deck list, because I'm looking at the list that that is being played right now. This is a much more stock version of what I would expect the updated Yawgmoth build to look like. So there are 4 Yawgmoths. There's the Strangleroot guys, and there's all the cool little toys. There's no Samwise Gamgee. There's actually 2 copies of the ring in this deck. So while we're trying to find a way to dig out of this situation with the Archon of Cruelty, why don't you talk to me about the 1 ring in this deck and how good and or bad it is? Because it looked really good when Sam was playing it, but this is a different build, or different enough that I think we should revisit the topic.
Yeah, I think it's still really good. Just one thing to keep in mind with the ring, right, is that you need a lot of mana and a lot of cards you can play quickly off the ring, because once you get kind of that second activation, you start getting overflowing with cards. This deck has a lot of mana dorks, which is going to put you in a position, as we see a Quarter Calling here get cast, to sort of dump your hand and get the ring quickly and sort of get it going. And so being able to very quickly dump your hand and play your cards puts you in a much better spot for success. So the 1 ring is really good with cheap cards and the ability to just sort of dump and mana acceleration. Also, the ring, pretty good in this matchup as a way to actually negate the Archon trigger. The Archon does need to target in order to get the sacrifice and the draw and the discard. So the ring could come up pretty big here, as we do seem to have Court of Calling, discarded Yawgmoth, found the Young Wolf, but we're going to concede. And let's check out one of these other matches really quick, as it looks like Pioneer might be the one. But yeah, just going to concede, didn't have mana, I think, and just knew the Archon was going to take over the game. And Christian feeling pretty good to get out of that one unscathed, being on the draw.
Hey, Mason. Alley-oop, passing the ball to you. What is going on right here?
All right, Mono Green versus Gruul. We have Pelucranos, Old Growth Troll, and a Llanowar Elves in play on the right with the Lair of the Hydra in the land zone. Be careful of that, along with the Old Growth Troll in the land with the Wolf Willow Haven. We got a lot of mana over here for the green player. Meanwhile, on the left, Lukas Parson playing Gruul Vehicle here. He has a bunch of cat tokens from a bunch of his secret chariots. Look like we've been copying, playing some new ones, hasting. And we also have a Bone Crusher Giant and a Lovestruck Beast in the back. Unclear if those are on an adventure or if those were used to crew this turn. I'm going to guess that since they're both tapped in the back, they were actually just on an adventure. And it looks like Lukas is slamming. This is a deck Lukas has played a bunch, qualified for the Pro Tour, Philly at the RC at the beginning of the year. Big fan of the Gruul Vehicle deck he is, and thinks it's one of the best decks in the format. And so far going pretty well for him and his team this weekend.
Okay, all right. So from this board state now, looks like Brandon going down to 11. I mean, honestly, I can't even be too upset with the position that we're in right now. Like these Old Growth Trolls are pretty chunky on the back end and may be able to stabilize us a little bit. So if we're in the spot of Lukas Parson, Mason, why don't you tell me how we might be able to sneak our way back through these large blockers?
We just need to push damage before the Pelucranos gets flipped and gets to a point where it's sort of gaining too much life for us to push through. In general, the Gruul Vehicle deck is kind of a grindy, aggressive deck. So in this matchup where the other deck's kind of a also chunky on the board, mid-range deck with a combo finish, it becomes very, very hard to actually go the distance. So right now, Nykthos is a big draw for Brandon. That means we're going to have, I believe, a 10 mana for the Nykthos activation. from everything I'm. Oh, sorry, 11 mana. Excuse me. So that means we're going to be able to play most of our cards, and we're very close to comboing if we have the rest of the pieces in hand. I don't believe we do. So we might see something like a Flip Pelucranos here, and then a Flip Pelucranos is just so big and gains so much life that it's going to be really hard for Lukas to attack through it unless he can just draw something like an Embercleave or an Crone War.
Okay, cool. So I think we've done a pretty good job here in sort of figuring out what the outs are on from both sides. Now, I'm suspecting that because we have not just slammed something like a Pelucranos into play, that it's probably just not there. How do we evaluate other threats?
It's in play already.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My
yes,
bad.
That's the weird constellation card. No, I'm here for promos. You're not, and you're here for the looks.
I am now 0 for 1. Okay, so moving forward, then try to flip that, try to erase that. Okay, got it. Push damage. So that's going to be an interesting one. What are the best ways that we could push damage then?
As Lukas, it's going to be cards like a Crone War or Embercleave. Those are two of the most common and normal ways to sort of go the distance here. It looks to me like, I'm going to check out this deck list here. We have 3 of the Crone War and no Embercleave. Yeah, because we have Giganta as our companion. So looks like we're just going to need to steal something and then have it attack a bunch.
All right, so a Crone War, the 4-mana saga here that says it's basically like your pseudo act of treason, and then has a couple more phases here, and that might just be. So I guess that's a really good question then, right? So judging from this board set, judging from what you've told me, as someone who is trying to learn Pioneer, definitely the Gruul Vehicles deck is the beatdown. Mono Green Devotion is the control deck.
Oh.
So.
Great play here from Lukas. So we saw the mono green player attack for 6. Lukas blocked with a cat and then stomped his own cat to prevent any life gain. So now Lukas has a huge board. We might be able to do something like play one of our creatures, crew the vehicle, attack. We block the biggest one, and that's still lethal coming across the finish line. Now, there is a layer of the Hydra, so we can animate the block. But if Lukas has something like another stomp or any sort of ability to maybe activate his own creature land, that is all the way it could be going. Also, Lukas might be able to just present near lethal anyways and just win on the race over multiple turns.
Okay, so it does look like Modern might be shuffling up, so we may transition over to that once we get a moment. But
this is the Voldaren Thrill Seeker. So it has backup. And when it backups, it puts 2+1/+1 counter something on a rock, and then it gives the ability that Voldaren Thrillseeker has till the end of turn. In this situation, Voldaren Thrillseeker has 1 sack, deal damage to target anything equal to its power. So that is lethal.
That is pretty tight, actually. I'd love to see that. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a 2 of in his deck. I missed it when scanning over looking for ways for him to actually get out of this, and that was probably one of the best things. As it does look like we have a Boseiju.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Back and
Lukas
forth.
Here getting absolutely messed up there. Now he's going to get a land from his deck. That's going to allow him to maybe cast a different spell that could end up mattering. But had Lukas maybe just moved the combat, we could have, pushed through a little bit of damage, and then Voldaren Thrillseeker one of these 2/2s to do 4 damage. So,
looks like the good news here, at least we can use the Voldaren Thrillseeker maybe to mitigate the impact of the Pelucranos gaining life, right, by sacking the creatures that are blocking it.
100%. Yeah, I think we should probably stay and see the end of this game for sure. There's still a lot going on here in this one. Modern is sort of shuffling up. Their game is going to take a little bit of time, but let's stay on Pioneer. I don't know. There we go. Yeah, this game is going to probably end in the next turn or two. So, a lot going on here.
In the meantime, what I can do for you at home, if you're wondering, all right, I'm going to guess. Turn 1, we have a Shockland and we have an Ignoble Hierarch. I'm going to catch you up. Then Christian's going to go put a tap land into play. And turn 2, there's going to be like a Grist or something. That's my prediction. All right, cool. Caught you up on the Modern coverage from the mind that is myself, I guess. What's going on right now? So looks like we're doing some attacks.
Yeah, it looks like we attacked with the tokens. We animated the layer, and this is important. We chump blocked with the layer. Since it's a Hydra, Pelucranos triggers for any Hydra that dies on Rog. So that layer chump blocking means we get a 3/3 reach and 3/3 lifelink. Yeah, Lair of the Hydra is a Hydra, and Pelucranos is a very weird card. I think we have a
Pelucranos. Is that going to literally dictate what happens here now? That small
I think it
interaction.
is over. Yeah, because now we gained 2 life by chump blocking, and then we also traded with one of the cats, and now we have another 3/3 lifelinker, and we have this 6/6 lifelinker. We get to attack in, and no matter what, start chunking and gain that life like we talked about before. And without the mana up to use Rodell and Thrill Seeker, your line of Pelucranos might come up later, but not on this turn, as Love Struck Beast gets cast.
Jeez. Okay. All right. So now we're getting some back and forth here. Brandon top decking to 1 card in hand. Let's see what it is.
Yeah. Actually, just great play there by the mono green devotion players. It's those little things that matter a lot with the green devotion deck. It's kind of a beatdown deck a lot of time that has a combo built in. Looks like Oath and Nissa was the draw. We're gonna get a redraw here.
Okay. Nice. The Ponder of Pioneer.
Yep, and looks like we found Karn the Great Creator. We have a lot of devotion in play, a little less than last turn because our Pelucranos doesn't count on the flip side.
But with Karn, what kind of tools are we looking here to get that might be good?
There's a lot of different ones that we could be grabbing. I think we could grab something like some players have Shadow Spear, some players have Seeker's Chariot, which would actually just be a bunch of blockers. It really depends sort of on what we are trying to find and set up the end game for. We can also just grab Pestilent Cauldron. Oh, it looks like we have enough mana for Cityscape Leveler. That's going to pick it up. Let's go to Modern. Just an 8/8, unbeatable. And yeah, Lukas Parson, so the game slips away from him. Meanwhile, here, looks like we had some early creatures and then a Wrenn and 6 to pick up with a Thoughtseize that took a Chord of Calling.
My forecast, by the way, was completely wrong. No mana dorks, no grist, nothing like that. It's actually probably like Yawgmoth into Strangleroot Geist or something with the Wall of Roots as well. So this is
the Wall of Roots. That's a mana dork, buddy. Don't be so mean to you.
I mean, it's not okay. Like it's not like a, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it on your fridge. Don't get me wrong. I just don't want you to have that negative self-talk.
Okay, so this is kind of interesting here. I mean, I feel like the board state is reasonably good here for Hunter. I mean, having all the Strangleroot Geist is kind of actually, now that I think about it, wait, does Strangleroot Geist actually go face here and not at the Wrenn and 6?
It's definitely possible. I mean, the Wrenn and 6 is sort of actually representing, the ability to combo, but if you have some way to disrupt that in hand, like an Orcish Bowmaster, that might be good. And just threatening the life total can be really real, as looks like Christian is using his mana to cast Fable, the Mirror Breaker, and another chunk blocker.
Okay. Fable kind of good here. Now, what's interesting with Wrenn and 6 in play, Fable in play as well, I'm trying to evaluate how strong something like Orcish Bowmaster being flashed in on the end of turn is going to be. 2 cards in hand here for Hunter. Okay, so it is. There it is. The EOT FOFGG becomes EOT OBGG, I guess. That doesn't sound as cool.
Yeah, that's awful. Orcish Bowmaster, though, really giving me Collecting Company vibes. It's just like I got nothing to do past the turn. Could be anything. Could be anything. And we're really close to winning. If we have a Chord of Calling here, we're an Eldritch Evolution, we can go grab our Yawgmoth and then start ping-ponging back and forth the Undying creatures and draw a lot of turns.
Yeah, just do it to him, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see what's going on. I think we might actually just be like also counting up like how much damage do I have in play, and can I just like turn sideways and attack, right? Like 9 life, like what's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like times 2, that's 10 by my math. That works.
Yeah, but there should be a goblin in play, right? Because we shot down the dwarf, but where'd the goblin go?
Oh, from the Fable. Yeah, I was actually wondering that too.
Yeah, they might just be waiting from production. As long as the players know there's a goblin, we can't miss the goblin. Looks like we have a Haywire Might in hand for Hunter as one of the cards. Hunter is attacking.
Okay.
Quarter Calling no longer on the table.
And Wall of Roots going to add some mana. Here's a Haywire Might. Ooh.
Hunter had Quarter Calling in hand.
Can we still use it for something here? Am I missing? Because we can activate the. We can tap the Haywire Might, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
We could have got a 3-drop, but it looks like we're gonna Haywire Might in the upkeep on the Fable.
We could also just chord for Bowmasters as well, right? Oh no,
yeah,
we don't have any.
We don't have the mana now because we used the wall. Yeah. maybe Hunter just has another Orc Master, another Orc in his bow in hand. But I mean, I guess putting Christian to 2 was pretty close to lethal. Oh, actually, no, it doesn't work that way. Never mind. I was going to say, I think Boarmaster, I thought because you drew the card, but you draw and gain the life as one action with Archon, so you won't actually die to the trigger.
Okay. That would be kind of cool if it worked that way.
6. Yeah, it would be really cool. Brendan 6 can just minus from the Bowmaster, and that will just, be pretty good.
Okay, here's Dwarven Mind going to get us another dwarf. Are we going to see another creativity? And even if we do see another creativity, is that even good enough? Chord of Calling here. Okay, pinging the Boymaster. I like the sequencing here with my mana floating.
No, float my mana. Do that real quick.
Persist, Teferi, Renaissance, Tarn, Mesa, Foothills, Teferi, Stevens. I can keep up Tarn. Binding, Spell Pierce. I'm dead. All right, I'm out. I tried.
Xander's Land, Bolt, Wooded Foothills, Spell Pierce, Leyline Binding, Mayors, Charisma
we got to get that BPM up.
Leyline Binding, Fable of the Mirror Breaker. My APM is insane. I played StarCraft 2. Prismatic Ending, Creativity, Logan, Bolt, Arcana Cruelty. There we go. We did it.
First try. Nice. And they doubted you.
And they doubted me. The haters be hating. I am very surprised to see Christian still have the Spell Pierces in the deck. I guess the One Ring has moved the needle enough. Traditionally, it just doesn't hit anything except Eldritch Evolutions and Quarter Callings, which sometimes players even trim. So this is an X's1 on the Quarter Calling. So it's not like...
Are we just going to put a creature into play?
Oh, yeah. I guess if we just get if we get Yawgmoth, you sack the Yawgmoth, and then you have 2 power creatures and the 1. So the opponent goes to 1, and then you're 1 damage away from killing them. Right? So you have to sacrifice the Yawgmoth.
But then there's an attack trigger, gaining more life, so we have to draw something here. I have to wonder if there was something else.
The attack is next turn. So we do have a turn. I think it looks like Stranglergeist is the out. Grist is the out. These are the things that are good draw steps for Hunter. Since Hunter decided to go for this aggressive line. Because we don't get to attack with the Archon this turn. You definitely just want to sack your Yawgmoth because it's the smallest thing. Yeah. Now, Christian does get to draw a card. Notably, Christian did not leave up his white mana. I think he could have if he had chosen to.
Going back into thinking about this, I almost wonder if... okay, well, there's a clutch draw step coming up, so let's see what it is. Thoughtseize.
Ooh, not what you're looking for.
And
there's no way he has Spell Pierce. Yeah, it has to be Bolt. He's just going to bolt down the big wolf.
Does this deck even play Bolt anymore over like the Leyline Bindings and all the...
It plays them all. Okay. Yeah, 5-color creativity, a good crazy shorthand. It's just 4-color control with a combo finish. Instead of Omnath and Solitude, you just have Creativity Archon. It's like a good... Yeah. Oh my god. All these persists. Persistent Archons in hand.
Yep, duly noted. And playing with the face up. Thank you. I'm kind of curious. There's still a lot of a lot of things that I want to detective my way through on this. But imagine if we hadn't used the Haywire Might, and for example, we had just used that to convoke, getting a second Bowmaster that would have amassed 1, made the army a little bit bigger.
We also have another body in play, and we also have the Haywire Might body too. I understand the wanting to maybe trying to prevent the rummage, but the ability to stop the combo on that turn when your opponent's sort of forced for it is pretty needed.
But the rummage is also not great because of the Bowmasters too.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, attacks coming in. Block the Strangle Root, guys. Comes back with the +1/+1 counter. And now I am a little bit terrified here as... Oh, were we trying to stop the rummage? Do we somehow know about the Persist and the Archon?
No, I think we just literally were trying to prevent them from drawing the combo.
Okay.
I mean, unless there was some, like, we weren't here for turn 1, so maybe there was a thought seed under all that, and they knew they had persist. But I think it was just a situation of that. And now we're going to see this Wall of Roots get sacrificed. Christian up to 5.
Oh, it just feels like we're stealing this game.
It really does. It's Christian, yeah, now has that Arid Mace at 5 life. We can actually fetch up a Dwarven Mine to save a life. Save 2 life.
Root, guys, off the top. No,
yeah.
This is a moment of...
And worth noting, in Legacy, Grixis Delver beats Grixis Tempo 2-0. So the team of Parson and Christian need all their wins. Now, it looks like while we were watching this game, Lukas ran over Mono Green in Game 2, and they're now in Game 3. So we might be joining them in just a second.
It's tense. It's so tense. What is this card? What is that card?
It's Quarter Calling. Let's go up to Lukas Parsons' game against Brandon McArthur and see that. But wow, what a crazy game there. I think
so we'll take a look at some.
Right.
Yeah, we'll take a look at some of the deck lists here. Mono Green Devotion at the hands of Brandon McArthur. Let's talk about sideboarding here for the Mono Green deck. All right, good talk. Now we'll take a look at. Okay, all right.
You might trim the Cityscape level in the main for like an Asika's Chariot. If that's in the sideboard or something like that, just as an early blocker, you could do something like things like you do sideboard with this deck. We can move over to
there
the
is
deck,
nuance.
There is nuance, yeah. There are little things you can do, but it looks like we don't have some of those in our sideboard. Look and check out Lukas Parson. He does have a large and charged sideboard.
Perfect. So walk me through this here as we see Giganta. First of all, that's going to dictate a lot of what we're allowed to play. Some Rending Volleys, Roast, removal spells. Okay, the Unlicensed Hearst. The Stonebrain. What are you happy with here?
So the Acrone War is the first thing I'm slamming. That's really good. And it's important to note that ever since Pelucranos came out, the Mono Green deck just plays a really good beatdown plan, and their creatures are just bigger than your creatures. In the past, you were kind of a lot more even because it was just Old Growth Troll that lined up well with your 3-drops. Now Pelucranos and Old Growth Troll really move the needle, and War was good before. It's great now. Roast, very similar idea. You want to be able to kill the Elf or the Old Growth Troll or the Pelucranos. So
all right, so let's take a look at the match here. Yeah, exactly. And I see turn 1 Mana Dorks on both sides, followed by an Old Growth Troll here for Brandon McArthur on Mono Green. We'll see what the follow-up play here is. I mean, we need to play a land here. Okay, Mutavault. And it's okay, Stomp on the Mana Dork. Cool. I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah, Stomp into Heart's Desire. Well, it'll make a 1/1. Me and who? As we see an Oath of Nissa get played.
Yep. Oath of Nissa. What kind of cards are you looking for? Maybe just like a Nykthos over anything else.
Yeah, it depends on what our hands lack. I can't quite see Brandon. Oath, very similar to some of your favorite cards like Ponder, just gives you a lot of selection sort of in what you can get off the top of your deck here and can sculpt the hand together. It's possible we just need mana. Sometimes you just need 2 lands, Elf on the play. That's really safe against the Gruul's Vehicle deck. They typically don't play 1 mana interaction. So we might have kept a 2-lander with that. And if that's the case, you probably want to land. But maybe you're missing out on top-end cards. We're getting a big idea for what's going on here. And for notably at home, you're trying to level up and improve. You're going to learn a lot about your opponent's hand in these spots if you're Lukas, right? Lukas is going to see there's a tank for a while, and they end up taking Forest, which means that there might be a lack of lands in Brandon's hand, which means I might want to fight more over Elves, or I want to try and push ahead while I can.
All right. Well, Old Growth Troll here is doing the job, just being as a good blocker here. I mean, we need to find ways to power through it. So you've already talked about how good the Acrone War is. I mean, stats-wise, what are ways that we can check this? We also have the Beast that we can also play for the turn here. Another Mutavault signals some weakness in the mana base here.
Yeah, it does. It looks like we have Damping Sphere in hand, which is a card that's, some players really like against Mono Green and some don't. It slows down both players a lot, which sometimes that's why players don't like it against Mono Green, because they just get to naturally develop and you can't go underneath them. So it looks like Lukas is deciding whether he wants to play, Lovestruck Beast and pass, or maybe play out another 2-drop and then develop the Damping Sphere. With no Nykthos in play and the current devotion count, I think Lukas is pretty safe to just develop his Lovestruck Beast. If Nykthos comes down on a Rog, the most it's going to be is +1 mana, or we play Elf, which would have to be off the top because we didn't play it this last turn, into, a net neutral on mana. So once again, just +1 where we were before. So I think you're okay to take the shields down just for a second and get some bigger creature in play.
Okay. Yeah. That's pretty good to know. Now, what kind of decisions do you think from the other side are we looking at? Like, in terms of developing the boards in the next few turns. What is the ideal situation?
We want to get more of the creature. So like another Old Growth Troll, another Pelucranos, eventually work towards Cavalier, because we want to keep the board stable and then develop our Planeswalkers. If it was play Karn or nothing, we'll play our Karn and wish for something, as we do see Megaloz's Crusher come down. But it is, sort of a situation where you want to get more bodies, as Nykthos is the slam there, and 5-mana Cavalier.
Woof. Okay. All right.
That is the punish for Lukas not playing the Damping Sphere last turn. And now, Brandon, if you play Damping Sphere, will be able to, still cast most of the spells, just won't be able to overwhelm you with mana.
Yeah, Cavalier of Thorns, I mean, in a matchup where we're just like basically playing to the board in all capacities, this is the card that, to me, just signals like Gandalf saying, "You shall not pass." You know what I mean? Like, this is like 6 toughness, and it just generates a lot of value as well. Here's the Damping Sphere, a little bit late, but is what it is. And then Lovestruck Beast also coming into play as well as a 5/5.
Yeah, and you can see Lukas knows the game's getting away from him here. His last card in hand is another Damping Sphere. It looks like he has 2 in his board and just drew them both.
Hypothesis: board stalls greatly favor the mono green devotion player.
Correct. High marks. Now, I will say this. If Lukas can develop the board a little bit more on Arog, and Brandon sort of just floods out a little bit, and we can draw cards like the Crowan War, we can come back from this. But we're going to need something like that sooner than later, as Kiora is the play for turn.
All right. 7 loyalty counters. Is there any world where we're like attacking? Or we're not that comfortable yet?
I don't think we're that comfortable yet, especially because your opponent's low on cards, and you have this Kiora, and it looks like you're probably setting up to maybe do something like Storm the Festival next turn. So just want to make sure your Kiora is alive. Looks like Lukas is taking a little bit of a think there, trying to figure out exactly what's going on. Looks like he drew Roast for the turn. That notably will remove the Old Growth Troll from play, but will put a Old Growth Troll on a land. And I believe the way Old Growth Troll works is it actually is stopped by Damping Sphere, because it makes an additional mana for the land. It's not like Wolfwillow Haven, where the Wolfwillow is making the mana.
Oh, that's really interesting. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I could be mistaken, but I believe that is the way that interaction works. I remember a judge explaining something like that to me.
And it's okay. Twitch chat will crucify you if you're wrong. So,
Oh, they love to try and come for me, but they always be missing.
Yeah, we still didn't get you to. All right, I don't even have like a card that we haven't talked about yet on the screen yet. Like, I was gonna say, oh, the alt art there. What is that? But like, I've literally said that it was Lovestruck Beast, so you get a pass on this one. But
I really need that pass. Thanks.
I think I agree with you here, because it does give the forest the ability to generate mana. So that's pretty solid here. Roast's gonna go after the troll. Okay, troll comes back, targets that forest,
and we can give our Megaloz's Crusher a menace here and attack. Unsure if we want to attack face or the Kiora. I can imagine either. It looks like we might be lining up some just alphas at the Kiora to prevent the extra mana / drawing cards. Both those things are pretty bad. Lukas also has give this menace attack, play second Damping Sphere, which with Lukas out of cards, double spelling isn't a thing Lukas will do much more of the rest of the game, and Brandon will. Now he can't play this because of the Damping Sphere. Yeah. Looks like he's just going to add Gigant to the hand.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, because like I feel like Damping Sphere is really good at certain stages of the game, but the turn that it came down, it seems like one of those things where you would want to use it as a floodgate, and as soon as like anything is in play, boy oh boy does this card look way less. It just, yeah, I don't know. I'm not very impressed by it, but I guess it's doing enough here as we see Storm the Festival on the stack, flipping over a couple cards here. Now that's interesting that eventually Lukas chose to go for face, putting McArthur Down to 16. Do you agree with that decision? Is that what you would do in that spot?
It's tough. I don't have a ton of experience with this deck. I think I like making the game about life. I think if you fight over the Kiora, you're giving your opponent multiple draw steps, and you just need to make the. And this is a huge hit if you're a Lukas fan. Just getting an elf and a Wolf Willow Haven is not enough. So it's going to be a tough spot here. And Brandon, normally these what you said, Damping Sphere, I think is a card that's maybe better on the play quite often on Honor. You're sort of highlight that, right? We were a little bit too far behind. We didn't get to capitalize on the lack of mana in the life lane game, but this whiff on the Wolf Willow, this whiff by hitting Wolf Willow means we might actually have a chance for this Damping Sphere to catch up and get us back in this game. And if we can play the second Damping Sphere, and we might it might be really hard for Brandon to ever do anything, and we can just start throwing our creatures away, right? Just be like, attack with everything, eat my biggest one, take 7, and do it again, do it again, and just chip Brandon down to lethal. Because we do have these 2 Mutavaults in the back here.
Yeah, that's certainly interesting. I gotta think about this because like you're looking at how the start of the game, right? It was pretty rough. Elvish Mystic and then into double Mutavault. I'm wondering if there was like some sort of crazy payoff there that we didn't get to see, that like the Akroan War that we kept the hand based off of. Like I really just want to see it happen, honestly. That's all I'm asking, right? That would be like a really nice highlight reel.
It'd be a great moment. It might become a best of NRG series live if it does. Now that we have those. And it looks like Lukas drew Bone Crusher from hand from the way he's separating his mana. So I might be thinking about, okay, do I want to stomp this elf? And then do I want to animate my Mutavault, or do I want to cast the Bone Crusher? If I cast the Bone Crusher, I can't give Menace to my Meaglaws, which means my Meaglaws would be blocked. So looks like it is a situation where we are going to give Meaglaws Menace. And this is what we talked about, by the way, Honorog, is the Damping Sphere hurts both players sometimes. Right now, I think in this situation, it's helping Lukas way more than it's hurting him. But he is not able to double spell here, and instead just has to, it looks like some players are hitting the table.
No, it's just an earthquake in the multiverse.
Sure, yeah. Maybe we can let production know to go fix that.
All right, so there comes in the squad.
Yeah, like and this
beast is blocked.
Yeah, the beast got blocked. It was the biggest thing we could because Meaglaws has Menace. And you're seeing it right now. Meaglaws can also get +2/+2 on Rog. So we're representing Brandon at 2 life here if he doesn't present another blocker. That Storm the Festival was just too little.
That's crazy, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Had it hit like even another Old Growth Troll, this game would be vastly different.
This game actually started off so nicely for Brandon. I mean, we saw curving out in from the Old Growth Troll, getting a turn to use the Nykthos, then playing the Cavalier of Thorns, and now suddenly we're in a situation where it's just like we had just a little bit of bad luck with that Storm of the Festivals, and now, okay, all right. I mean, there's actually a window here for Lukas, so
we have 9 mana with a land from turn and the activation of Kiora.
9 mana, that's 2, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Just for the record, where no one's trying to be stickler here, you can't play your cards for your teammate, just so we're all clear. Looks like these players are just talking through everything, and everyone just wants to make sure. But
yeah, so we're going over the ruling here where Damping Sphere will stop one, but not the other.
Yeah. And that's huge here because, like I said, we have 9 mana with Kiora. It would be 10. We could flashback Storm if not. So this seems to be
Karn, okay.
Yeah, Karn with a mana floating. And we're just going to play the Haywire Might from under the Damping Sphere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so we had exactly there. And now we get to activate Nykthos. And we're seeing here Lukas didn't play the second Damping Sphere. Instead, attack with the Mutavault to try and set up lethal. And it matters a ton right now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, these are the small micro decisions, but honestly, I also see this, I feel the tension, right? Because you got to attack. You can't just sit back there forever. Or is that okay? Cityscape, yeah.
Cityscape is huge, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And the 2 damage mattered, but it was dang. Preventing Brandon from double spell was the way for him to win.
All right, a Crow and War off the top. Is that lethal?
Not lethal because you can't attack with the creature the turn you play it, but it's a very good start. You'll get the Cityscape Leveler. You could Crone War and then cast Damping Sphere and sort of put Brandon back in the same spot with you having the Cityscape, which could blow up some of these things.
Okay. Ooh, this is close. I love that there's still draws that we could draw to, but I'm stressed.
Yeah,
I'm just stressed. Yeah, that feeling when you feel like you're so close, and then like your opponent just plays the one card that stops you in your path, and you're like, well, I don't have the resources to pivot.
So if you've been looking at these players' legs, Lukas Parson, his leg has been bouncing like crazy when he was ahead. Now look at Brandon. His leg is bouncing. He's like, all right, get back to me. Yeah. You don't have anything. Back to me, and let me just untap.
You're saying this is the NRG advantage bar right now? The players get to dictate? Okay.
The bouncier your leg, the stronger your position is.
But playing the Damping Sphere here too also just doesn't seem so great because of the Cityscape Leveler.
Yeah, but it does... It forces an attack, which at least means that you can attack back. It isn't great, but it is something. It looks like we're just going to put a bunch of creatures on board and cast another sphere.
Okay.
Like you mentioned, we can blow that sphere. You can't use that because there's a card in play. We need to get that fixed real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Future match, if we can get a judge over there.
Good catch, by the way.
Yeah, I'm on top of things. You can't trick me. Promos, game rules. I'm pretty embarrassed, actually. Forgot about living and being black earlier. A great shame. Now, I think the way this is all... There's a Karn in play. Yeah. The judge card. Okay. Yeah. They're going to fix it.
So if that just change attacks, or it doesn't change anything, I don't think.
It shouldn't matter. It was a 1/1. The Cavalier, if you were to block, is actually bad for Lukas because then he gets to put Storm on top of the deck, so Lukas would never triple block. Besides, he could never then assign lethal. So technically it's wrong. Luckily, it didn't cause any problems. It looks like the players are sort of talking to the judge, getting their warning, and then making sure the game state's good and everything's good.
All right.
Lukas does have a second Power Stone, though, so that should be on the board still. But, it's fine. It is turned off.
Tapping some mana here for Nykthos, counting it all up, and untapping the Nykthos, doing it all over again. Spinning the wheel here, maybe?
Well, it looks like we might be just flashing back Storm with some mana in the yard. We're really close to combo. We're really, really close to combo. And if your Storm hits like another copy of Karn, you might be able to get there. Another Kiora. If you Cavalier into a Nykthos, that's really strong. Looks like we're maybe named Stone Brain for the old Crone War.
Talk numbers to me real quick. So what are the minimum amounts of mana, devotion, things like that I would need to combo? Help an old legacy boomer out here.
I believe when you have a Karn in play and then a Karn in another zone, either hand or graveyard, and the same for Kiora, it's 11 devotion with notably Nykthos activation up still. So you need to have 11 from that starting point, and you can win from there. Now, we found another Karn. We found this Pelucranos, but it doesn't look like we have another Nykthos, so I don't think we can win this turn on that, but we are going to be able to get a redraw here from the Pelucranos entering play. We have some floating mana. And now it looks like the players are talking. They kind of want to go grab Stone Brain and just name the Crone War.
Oh, then I love that so much.
Yeah, it just cuts an out for Lukas there. And, with the Giganta as no information, the other card that could be a problem, Embercleave, which admittedly is a lot more rare in these decks than Crone War. But that might be the only thing you could outthink yourself. But it is known information. It's not there. Or it was a big oopsie-poopsie cheat scheme moment for Lukas there by having a Giganta still. So looks like a Mightstone and Meekstone also a consideration. Just play it, shoot down a creature. I do think the Stone Brain is basically... you are going to win the game for sure.
Is it time for the Demonic Tutor Challenge?
Yeah, it might be time for Demonic Tutor Challenge.
Okay, so it looks like we're not getting the Stone Brain here, and instead we're getting Woodcaller Automaton?
Yeah. This will let us untap a land, which will be Nykthos, so we have more mana. This might actually be the start of a combo kill if there are pieces in hand that we didn't quite know about. Also just gives another blocker in play.
I think, yes, you can see here, 10 mana, but it's prototype for 2 green, and it comes in as a 3/3 When it ETBs, if you cast an untapped target land you control, aka untapped target Nykthos, it becomes a treefolk creature with haste and base power and toughness equal to the Woodcaller Automaton's power and toughness, and it is still a land. So this is a way basically to continue the chain. Here's Old Growth Troll coming down now, drawing a card.
Yeah, and we're up a bunch of devotion from when we started. We might just see make a bunch of mana, sack the Old Growth Troll land, get the troll in play, draw another card, and then try to just like find the Kiora and just like start comboing or anything like that. Or then we still have the Stone Brain in hand from the first card. So it looks like we're just gonna flash. We're checking everything real quick here before we
Pass with floating
flash
mana.
back the score. Yeah. And we found another Nykthos, it looks like. Nykthos, a really good find. Makes your Storm really good. And this is the mono green deck. This is the best deck in the format. It always does really well. It always has half the numbers of Rakdos players and always has a very similar win percentage and representation. This is the deck to consider, and it's just so incredibly strong.
Yeah, and you can definitely see why here too, right? It's just the way it just gets on the board, the resources and tools that it has to sort of play defensively and then pivot into offensive gameplay is just a lot. So I remember, you know, back in Atlanta of last year at the regional championship, this was the deck that everyone was trying to beat, and despite, I mean, okay, it didn't make top 8, but despite that, like everyone trying to beat it, it had the most copies in the top 32. So it was one of the better performing decks of that weekend. And
yeah, did the same thing in Dallas, by the way. I don't know if you saw it. While it was only 10% of the field, it was it had slightly less conversion than other decks, but, and we're going to see Lukas concede here, it was still one of the best decks. And wow, it's kind of a showing that Lukas just knows, like, I could cast multiple Clone Wars and lose.
Yeah. All right, welcome back to the booth here as we have wrapped up round number 5 here. The win going to the team that we on the right-hand side. Pretty powerful mono green Grixis Delver, and then I think we also saw no Yawgmoth actually was not able to overcome creativity here. But on that note, yeah, I think that's gonna call it for us. So thank you so much for hanging out today. We have more Magic content coming your way here at the NRG Series 10K in St. Louis, and this is Anurag Das, Mason Clark signing out.